Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are joining us today. Welcome to a Salesforce Admin's webinar, Build Innovation into Your Admin Routine. I'm Rebecca Saar, Senior Manager on the Admin Marketing team, and I'm joined today by John Brunswick and Gina Naiwen, two people on our Salesforce Innovation Group that we're super excited to talk to today. But of course, before we get started, we have our forward-looking statement, just to remind everyone to please make purchasing decisions based on currently available features and functionality. Shouldn't be a problem today because we're not going to be talking too much about product. And definitely connect with us. We are a very social bunch. We are on Twitter, Salesforce Admins No I. In fact, Rachel, our social media manager, is going to be tweeting about this webinar. So get on there and join us in the conversation. We're also on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, Salesforce Admins. And if you like webinars like these and other great resources, definitely check out admin.salesforce.com. And again, a reminder that this webinar is being recorded. Like all of our webinars, you will be able to find it on the original page that you registered on, and also on YouTube. And there's the link right there. Also, if you have questions throughout this webinar, please join our webinar group in the Trailblazer community. It's bit.ly/adminwebinargroup. Remember to capitalize A, W, and G. And don't wait to ask your questions. You can ask them anytime during the webinar. And then stick around to the end where we will be taking some of those questions and answering them live. All right, so now let's get started. I'm super excited to have John and Gina here to talk to us about, building innovation into our daily lives and, making sure that we're making time for this. In fact, this webinar is kicking off kind of a focus for us this month on how admins can deliver innovation, because we really think that this is core to the success of an admin. Because as admins, if we're thinking outside the box and we're building solutions that maybe our users haven't even thought about, we're really setting ourselves up for success and having a great impact on our company and really showing how we can innovate and be leaders in our company. And not only that, we know Salesforce releases innovation 3 times a year. And it's up to us admins to deliver that innovation, right? So this is all about how we can learn to be more innovative. I'm super excited to have John kick it off and kind of talk about today's agenda and tell us more about how we can build innovation into our daily routine.
Awesome. Thank you, Rebecca. So very grateful for the opportunity to share with everyone today. Gina and I will be telling you guys a little bit about our group within Salesforce to give us some context and to share our own personal struggles around innovation and kind of a process that we've arrived at that's been very, very helpful to us in our own group and our own kind of our own efforts as we chase after doing amazing, innovative things. All right. So what do we do? Now, at first glance, you might say executive immersion. Why is something related to executives having to do with innovation? And within our group at Salesforce, we share the value of technology with leadership from your organizations when you come and visit Salesforce's headquarters or any one of our offices across the world in generally what are called executive briefings. And the reality of it is these individuals, the leadership and the executives, are the ones that will fund the innovation projects that we get to kind of unlock our best ideas with. So from our standpoint, we're a very diverse group of people ranging from traditional engineering all the way to design thinking and business-focused individuals. And for us, though, PowerPoint is not a word that we understand in our group. we truly like to build solutions, build living, breathing examples of this innovation that, again, we're sharing with these audiences that can help fund innovation. All right, so innovation is not all kind of rainbows and sunshine. It's really difficult. And I think there's this stigma of innovation that it's something, however, that's up on a pedestal, right? That you need to have a black turtleneck and a special pencil or pen and drink fancy coffee drinks. But the reality is that innovation's here for all of us. And really, it's the ability to take the great ideas that you have and make sure that we're able to get them out there and get them aligned with the value that they would provide to yourself, to your colleagues, to your customers, and to your organizations. And as we dive into kind of, again, this process that Gina and I formed for our own group within Salesforce, you know, it doesn't need to be, we're not necessarily launching a SpaceX rocket. We're dealing with technologies that we all use every day, right? So underneath our innovation is Sales Cloud and Marketing Cloud and the platform. So all the things that you're engaging with across Trailhead and ADM training, all of that is actually what fuels the experiences that we create within our group.
That's really cool, John. And I really wanted to just highlight, you know, that first bullet point. You don't have to have innovation in your title to be an innovator. I really love that, and I think it's great for admins to know and remember that, right? That it's more about your mindset and making sure that you take the time to innovate and talk to different teams and think about ways that you can kind of create new solutions. So it's really cool.
That's exactly it. You can get a turtleneck if you want, or a fancy coffee drink, but it's not mandatory. So, you know, why is it so hard though? And, you know, our team, we're a relatively new team at Salesforce. We've been around a couple years, and we've always done a good job with innovation, but we recognize that sometimes we had trouble figuring out where to start on projects. Sometimes we were finding it difficult to repeat in the way that we thought we could. And our group, we get along really, really well in the group, and we find ourselves sometimes caught in these endless loops of pontification. And so we said, is there some sort of process that can be our like helping hand, right? Not a process where we're kind of chained to the process, but a process that kind of helps support us and make the most out of all the great ideas that we have. And that's what we're sharing with you guys today. So one of the things that I think is can sometimes be a little tricky to readily identify with innovation is just how important the business value is with it. And we have a member of our team, Cleston, and he has this great expression. He asks, is the juice worth the squeeze? And really what that means is in all this great work that we're going to do with the Salesforce capabilities, are we bringing enough business value with kind of what we're dreaming up to make something that could get into a pilot and potentially into production again for our organization, for our customers? And I'm not sure how many people have heard of Brian Solis, but he has a really great paper called the Digital Change Agent Manifesto. And what he says is that you kind of almost need to be half cheerleader and half politician to get innovation into your organization. And so between business value and understanding that we have to socialize things a little bit, it's just good to have in the back of our minds. Because again, when we think innovation, we generally think technology and we're thinking about the cool user experience we want to create. But these things will ultimately help get our idea out the door. All right. With that, I would love to turn it over to Gina to actually dive into the process. And again, I'll stop by saying, for us, we want something really practical. Gina, can you dive us into the process?
Definitely, John. So in the next few slides, we will share our prototyping process to get innovation out faster. To shift us from that classic mindset to this prototyping mindset, our team deconstructed what worked for us into 5 distinct stages. This is a high-level overview of the process, which we will dive into more details in the subsequent slides. The process is intended to provide a framework to guide and organize the innovation opportunities. However, it's going to be flexible enough to avoid constraining us from being creative explorers. Some of that exploration happens as a part of our ongoing research, where we are discovering business problems or tinkering with new emerging technologies. So business problem research is an ongoing stage. I kind of liken this to method acting. This is a phase where we empathize with our customers, our organization. We really get into their shoes. We take the qualitative, the quantitative data being generated either in-house, in other places, and we glean what are the challenges for our organization. This stage also encompasses researching industry trends, determining the challenges of our competitors, and also seeing how our industry disruptors are winning in our space. In parallel, we also do focused technology research. Technology research is an ongoing activity where we dig through the hype to understand the business implications, the value and the use cases for our team or our organization. During this phase, of course, we'll be reading, but more importantly, we'll be tinkering. And so tinkering can be going through trailheads for knowledge and the hands-on activities, but all of this allows us to understand the business value of that technology and how to implement for our own organization. So let's relate this back to something a little bit more concrete. So let's say I'm an admin for a retailer, and I've been reading on TechCrunch about computer vision and how it will eliminate text-based searches. Hearing this inspires me to research Salesforce and its capabilities for AI, and we quickly find on Trailhead that there's a category for Einstein and AI, and there's even a quick start for Einstein image classification. So go into the module, we get ideas, we do hands-on coding, we get helpful links to API documentation. And from that, as an admin for a retailer, my brain starts innovating, and I start asking myself, can I use Einstein Vision to allow my users to snap a picture of what someone is wearing, and then come back with search results showing what's available in our inventory? To ensure that we leave this research phase with actionable results, we use a template to keep us on track during our Einstein Vision research. So first, we want to define that technology in non-technical terms so that anyone could make sense of it. So for example, in our example, it would be Einstein Vision allows our apps to see like humans. Second, we want to relate that technology by showing how it's being used by other Salesforce customers. For example, we know some customers are using it to detect inventory level or product quality, or others are trying to get visual clues about consumer trends and preferences that allow them to do market campaign optimization. So synthesizing all of this as the admin for this retailer, the value for my organization is that snap and match idea that I had earlier. As far as top 5 surprises, I'll keep it to just one here for the webinar. We thought Einstein Vision would require lots of linear algebra and statistics, but we discovered that Salesforce has made it super easy for us to train new models for our own business cases. Next, we go into the challenge stage. So entering the challenge stage, we identify a concise want or need for our team, organization, or customers. We are also ensuring this challenge is worth pursuing by identifying the business value or what's the impact for solving this challenge. So, for example, let's assume that we work in auto manufacturing and we've had an uptick in failure rates for one particular part. However, once we start digging through the failures, we realize that we sourced that particular part from multiple suppliers. So recognizing the root cause of our issue, we decided to challenge ourselves with how might we increase transparency and traceability in our supply chain. But notice something there. Our problem is framed to be agnostic of technology solutions. To ensure that we frame this challenge concisely, we use a challenge template. There's a lot of templates here. So let's continue with our manufacturing example. So our problem was, how might we increase transparency and traceability in our supply chain? So the business value for us could be in the following: confirm authenticity of parts, decrease the time to trace a part from supplier to us. As far as stakeholders, we see that we have our suppliers, our Tier 1, Tier 2, our logistics transportation partners, and of course our customers. And then look at industry trends, we've seen an increased interest in supply chain traceability because of blockchain. We even see that a major retailer is trying to improve traceability of their food supply chain by applying blockchain to cut the time it took to trace a package of mangoes from the farm to the store to just under 2 seconds. This means quicker recalls in case of an outbreak, and this is a win for the retailer and the customers. The next stage is MVP. So John, can you help us show us how to go from this concept of the challenge to the MVP?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Gina. So, just to kind of recap, to take us up to this point, we're continually looking at new technologies, and Trailhead is a big part of that. We're constantly understanding our business, and when we find a problem, we want to create a challenge for it, right? So it's almost like you could almost put your hand in a fishbowl of challenges and pull one of them out. And now it's about, well, how do we even begin to approach it? And so for us, we want to keep this very pragmatic. We want to understand how Salesforce plus potentially some emerging technology can help solve that challenge. So who is involved in this particular challenge that we're solving for, right? So it might be somebody that is related to inventory management in Gina's example. And then what technologies do we bring together to try to create a solution? And if we go to the next slide here, from a template standpoint, that's really where we almost grab pencil and paper and we sketch out a very low fidelity representation of our solution. It does not need to be fancy. And when we think about writing a summary of the solution, we want to do it in a way where we're not setting ourselves up to write chapters of a book. We're doing it in 500 characters or less. We want to keep it really pragmatic. And the challenge, remember, that's where we have the business value identified that we're going after. And the solution summary, that's just our kind of rough skeleton to actually start to put something together. And I think we opened talking about a healthcare example where Gina created a future of healthcare experience. And I think, Gina, you did some specific things around a particular MVP that I think might be worth talking about. Could you take us in the next section and dive down on that a little bit?
Most definitely, John. So for our healthcare experience, we were challenged with ensuring better adherence and support. And so as part of that, we were able to prototype an in-home health assistant. So for this in-home health assistant, we stacked Alexa with facial recognition, Salesforce SOS video chat to bring all the components of adherence and support together into one space. And we did this in actually about a week time frame, which sounds pretty crazy, but with rapid prototyping, that's what you're trying to accomplish. What you want to do is you want to get an idea to functional build as fast as possible so you can determine the feasibility. Can it be done? And can we put these pieces together to meet the success criteria of our challenge? So for us, it was the in-home adherence and support. So once you get to the point where you know it's feasible, that's when you can start iterating on the user experience and figuring out what's the best way to make this interaction. So for our in-home health assistant, it took us about a week to get to that build stage, but it took us another 2 weeks or so to refine that conversation voice script and to get that user experience perfectly. But the important thing here is, yeah.
Oh, quick question. So for this, we found some value in time boxing, correct?
Most definitely, because this is where we go back to, is the juice worth the squeeze? Because you could definitely iterate for months and months on the user experience, actually trying to figure out which technologies to put together. Any of those, like choosing the technology, all of that could have taken a lot longer than a month. But our goal was to get to that feasibility, and we were trying to see, could we meet the success criteria of that particular challenge? So once we do meet that criteria, the success criteria of that challenge, we can go into the next stage, which is the pilot phase. To have a successful pilot, we first must define the key metrics of success that we should measure. All these key metrics of success is just going to align back to the success criteria that we define as part of our challenge. The pilot allows our customers to play and provide the feedback. And we can use the feedback to either iterate or define new challenges as needed. So as you can see, we have a 5-stage process. It takes us from that innovative idea that we had at the very beginning to an innovative solution in front of our customers in a span of weeks. And of course, that adds business value back to our team, the partner, and our organization very quickly. But you might be wondering, so how do I stay up to date on technologies and industry trends? And then I still have to have time to tinker and prototype. So John, can you help us with this?
I wish I had a time machine, but yeah, I think we've got some hints. So if we go to the next section here, a lot of times I think about these like raw ingredients, right? If we were cooking at a restaurant, we would have a whole shelf of different spices. And that's really how I view all these areas where we want to continually just kind of keep abreast and see what's going on. So from a technology standpoint, Gina talked about tinkering. And I think that, you know, the great thing within your trailhead experience, there are plenty of exercises to go through and get hands-on. But just in general, there's just so much accessibility around experimenting with these different technologies. And there is a particular news kind of aggregator that we use in our group quite a bit called Panda, that basically lets us see what's trending on sites like GitHub. So what's the latest of what's going on with these different technologies? What are people doing with the raw kind of code and solutions? But we've got to marry that up with, again, business value, back to the juice and the squeeze. So from an industry standpoint and just understanding trends with business, we're constantly looking through materials from somebody like a McKinsey, or staying abreast of the disruptive trends through something like TechCrunch. Again, it's pretty incredible what's available to us to keep ourselves fueled up with this education. And the final part is, you know, we're always searching for inspiration. And I found if you guys have not been on Code Drops or Dribbble or CodePen, I highly recommend taking a look, because it's not necessarily even about directly using those ideas, but it's just constantly getting that external stimulation just to see what others are thinking and doing with technology. And so that whole area of user experience is a great way just to generate some insights that you could use later. Now for the final part here, and we're going to be actually open sourcing this and making this available, we within our group, we actually use a series of dice, believe it or not, for some exercises. And the reason that we do this is just like those different areas of research, we keep on taking ourselves out of our current comfort zone and exposing us to new ideas and new thinking. And the way that this works is there's one dice that has a bunch of Salesforce capabilities. So whether it's something like Quip or Marketing Cloud or Sales Cloud, there's another dice that has emerging technologies. So AI, AR, voice. And what we'll generally do is we'll roll the dice of Salesforce capabilities, and then we'll give ourselves an emerging kind of trend. So it might be something like Marketing Cloud and virtual reality, right? Like, what would that potentially mean? And again, it's just to get our minds limbered up and moving. The last dice there is where we ask ourselves some tricky business questions. We say, well, you know, when would this be used? Or who's involved with it? Who would benefit from it? You know, where again is kind of the juice from a potential squeeze. So with that, we're very grateful for the chance to share with everyone today. And I think, Rebecca, I'll pitch it back to you.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I just wanted to say, John, I love this dice game idea. As I've said before, I think, you know, because as admins, we have very full plates, and this is a nice way to kind of open your mind and have a fun exercise and kind of get started. So I really love this. But let's get into some resources before we get into questions. So a couple, just to let everyone know, there is a Trailhead Trail, yay, Innovate the Salesforce Way. So you can kind of dive deeper into how we innovate and kind of take some learnings from that. There's a great HBR article, The 5 Requirements of a Truly Innovative Company, that you can take a look at. And then John himself has an innovation series on YouTube. So Google that and take a look. It's really great. All right, so we're kind of wrapping up now. Just before, I want to remind everyone, we do have a survey. So when you click out of GoToWebinar, it will pop up. The slides will be available at that link. And if you have questions, jump into the bit.ly/admin webinar group. I think off the top, I had some questions when I was kind of going through this. I was thinking, so, you know, I think your team has a lot of experience talking to executives about these new innovations and ideas, right? And I think this could be helpful for admins. Like, what tips do you have for when you have this new idea or innovation that you want to bring to a company? Like, what are some tips for talking to executives?
Sure. Well, so I would say one of the most striking things is that just like we love Netflix and ice cream, executives do as well. And I've had the privilege of meeting some of the world's most written about business leaders, and I've been really surprised every time how curious and down to earth these individuals are. So with that, I think simplicity is the key. And what we have to recognize is that, so for Gina and myself within our group, we go very deep technologically. And when we're with executives, we're literally putting our experiences into their hands, right? So if you guys have seen a traditional software demo, we don't demo to our guests. We actually let the guests drive the experiences. And the reason is that it's all running, breathing, live, real technology. Now, with that being said, for the people in the room, the way that they're thinking is, where is this valuable to our organization, and how does this help solve some challenges? So, I've spent many a late night digging deep into some technological aspect of something, only to later realize that I chased an orange with very little juice in it. So I think it's keep the messaging simple, keep it focused around the value of the solution, and just recognize that it doesn't take away the magic of the technology and what we technically do with it. Just being okay with that. That would kind of be, I think, my highest tip is just frame it very simply, do things succinctly, and know that these people are actually very, very curious.
Cool. That's great advice. Thank you. So we are at time at 10:30. So if you have any more questions, everyone, feel free to jump into the group and we will answer them there. Thank you so much, John and Gina, for joining us for this webinar and sharing a little bit about your team and experience in building innovation with our group.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, with that, we'll end the webinar. Bye, everyone.